In this video, you will learn how to merge or union two or more arrays in Delphi. I will demonstrate how to merge two arrays with this project that you can program with me. But first, to make sure you have a basic understanding, you can watch lesson 17.1 to 17.10. The button on the left will display countries in Europe that are members of the European Union. You will retrieve these country names from an array. The button in the middle retrieves European countries that are not members of the European Union from a different array. And the button on the right must merge the elements in the first two arrays and display the result. You will notice that the names from the two arrays are sorted. We will also use a selection sort in this project to sort the names of the countries after we merge the two arrays. So first go watch the detailed lesson about the selection sort algorithm in lesson 17.9, because I'm not going to explain it in detail in this lesson. And as a bonus, you will learn how to plan and organize your code with a to-do list in the IDE of Delphi Community Edition. Hi, it's Gerard here from LearnDelphi. I'm a trainer in programming languages, and in this series, I help you to understand Delphi programming step by step and line by line. If this video is helpful to you, make sure you give it a thumbs up. And I also publish all the links I mention in this video in the description box below. In all our lessons, I start with the code immediately. I do not demonstrate how to create the graphical user interface. That is so that you only focus on the code of the lesson we are doing. If you want to follow what I'm doing but you want to save some time, you can download the starter project to start immediately where I start with this lesson. The starter and solution project files are available for download from my Patreon page at patreon.com/learndelphi. I also posted that link in the description. And I'm using Delphi Community Edition to demonstrate these lessons. There's also a link in the description if you want to download the free copy of Delphi. You can pause the video here and go do the downloads. While you wait for your download to finish, I will go ahead and explain how to merge two or more arrays in Delphi. I will use two arrays with 3 elements each for this explanation. One array contains European Union countries. The second array contains non-EU countries. To merge the arrays, you must use 2 loops, one for each array. While cycling through the arrays, you must keep track of a few values. You need an integer to store the size of the first array, and another integer variable must store the size of the second array. You will also need an integer variable to keep track of the cycles of the loop for the first array. And the fourth integer variable must keep track of the cycles of a loop for the second array. When merging the two arrays, all elements of both arrays will be copied into a third array. I will demonstrate this with a dynamic array, but it is also possible to do it with a fixed size array. The dynamic array will start without elements. We need another integer variable that will be used to set the size of the dynamic array. Now let's look at the algorithm. We get the size of the array that stores the EU countries with the length function and store it in an integer variable. Then we also get the size of the array of the non-EU countries and store it in another integer variable. Then we set the integer variable that sizes the dynamic array to 0. We will use 2 for loops to cycle through each array separately. You can merge more than 2 arrays by adding more loops. The first loop will cycle through the array that stores EU countries. It starts at 1 and its upper limit is the size of the array. So it will find Italy the first time you enter the for loop. You increase the integer that sizes the dynamic array, then you use the setLength procedure to add the first element to the dynamic array. A dynamic array's first index will always be 0. Then you assign Italy in index 1 of the EU countries array to index 0 of the dynamic array. Then the compiler jumps back to the top of the for loop and increments the index to 2. Now it finds Greece. You increase the integer that sizes the dynamic array to 2. Then you use the setLength procedure to add the second element to the dynamic array. Then you assign Greece in index 2 of the EU countries array to index 1 of the dynamic array. The compiler enters the loop again and increments the index to 3. It finds France. You increase the integer that sizes the dynamic array to 3. Then you use the setLength procedure to add the third element to the dynamic array. Then you assign France in index 3 of the EU countries array to index 2 of the dynamic array. The first loop is done because it reached the end of the array. Now you enter the second for loop to cycle through the array that stores the non-EU countries. It also starts at 1 and its upper limit is also the size of the array. So it will find Norway the first time you enter the for loop. You increase the integer that sizes the dynamic array to 4. Then you use the setLength procedure to add the fourth element to the dynamic array. So notice the index of the dynamic array just continues from where the previous loop ended. Then you assign Norway in index 1 of the non-EU countries array to index 3 of the dynamic array. The compiler jumps back to the top and increments the index to 2. Now it finds Georgia. you increase the integer that sizes the dynamic array to 5. Then the setLength procedure adds a 5th element to the dynamic array. Then you assign Georgia in index 2 of the non-EU countries array to index 4 of the dynamic array. Then you go back to the top of the for loop and increment the index to 3. Index 3 is the UK. Then you increase the integer that sizes the dynamic array to 6. The setLength procedure adds the 6th element to the dynamic array. And you assign UK in index 3 of the non-EU countries array to index 5 of the dynamic array. Now the second loop is also done. And that is how you merge 2 or more arrays. You can merge more arrays by adding more loops after you cycled the last array. Just remember, the elements of all the arrays you want to merge must be of the same type. You can also add code after the last loop ended to sort the merged array. You can sort it with the bubble sort algorithm I demonstrated in lesson 17.8, or with the selection sort algorithm I explained in lesson 17.9. Sometimes you may also have duplicate elements after merging 2 or more arrays. If it is a requirement to remove duplicates, you can also add the remove duplicates algorithm to your code. I also explained how to remove duplicate elements from an array in lesson 17.10. Now let's do this in a project. Here I have my project open in Delphi. If you have your project open, let's jump in. Double-click the button on the left of the form. Scroll up until you see the implementation clause. To save you time, I already declared 2 string arrays here. The first array has 27 elements. It stores the names of 27 European countries that are members of the European Union. The second array stores the names of 23 non-EU countries. Now let's go back to the button's click event handler. This button is for the EU countries. Go above the begin statement, type var, press enter, type strEU country as string. This string variable must store each individual EU country as we loop through the array. Go between begin and end, type lstEU countries, dot clear. We clear the first list box. Make a new line. Type for strEU country in ARREU countries do. Enter and type begin. Press enter. Type the statement. Here we use a for in loop to find each EU country name in the array. Then we take the country name and add it to the items of the list box. Now run the program. Click EU countries. The list box displays all the EU countries. Close the form. Click the Design tab. Double-click non-EU countries. Go above the begin statement. Type var. Press enter. Type str non-EU countries as string. This string variable must store each individual non-EU country as we loop through the array. Go between begin and end. Type lst non-EU countries dot clear. Now we clear the list box in the middle. Make a new line. Type for str non-EU country in ARR non-EU countries do. Enter and type begin. Press enter. Now type the statement. Here we use a for in loop to find each non-EU country name in the array. Then we take the country name and add it to the items of the list box. Run the program again. Click EU countries and click non-EU countries. Now we also display the non-European Union countries in the second list box. We must now merge these 2 arrays and display both the EU countries and the non-EU countries in the third list box. Close the form. Click the Design tab. Double-click the button on the right. Go above Begin. Type var. Enter and type ARR Europe as array of string. This is the dynamic array that we will use to merge the 2 main arrays. Press enter. Type int EU size, comma, int non-EU size, comma, int EU index, comma, int non-EU index, comma, int Europe size as integer. These two integers stores the sizes of the two main arrays, and these two integers will be the counter variables for the two for loops. And int Europe size will be used to size the dynamic array. Press enter, type str country name as string. This string will store each individual country name as we loop through the array. Press enter. Now let me show you how you can use a to-do list in your code to lay out the steps of your program. A to-do list is helpful if you want to come back later to your project and add the piece of code. We will write our code in steps, and after programming each step, we will run the program, and then we will come back to continue with the next step. One of our steps is to program a selection sort, but we first must merge the two arrays, so we will come back later to declare the variables for the selection sort algorithm. To remind us to come back for that, we will add the task in a to-do list. Let me show you how. Right-click here on the blank line, click Add To-Do item in the context menu. Inside the text box, type Add Variables for Selection Sort. You can also give a priority level to your to-do item in this pin edit. The priority is a number between 1 and 5. If you want, you can also type your name in this box as the owner. This is useful if you work in a team where more than one programmer uses the same unit. If you have many to-do items, you can also organize them in categories. You can have, for example, a few to-do items in a category that you call inputs, and a few in a category that you call processes, and so on. These three parameters are optional. You can go and play with it. I will keep it simple and just add the text for my to-do item, and click OK. Your to-do item is now added as a comment. I will show you in a moment how this is helpful. Go between begin and end. We are going to write our code in 5 major steps. All 5 steps must be added to our to-do list. Type this comment. This will be another item in your to-do list. Notice that we use 2 slashes here, but you can also type the text between braces like here. Press enter twice. Add this to-do item. Make a new line again and add this to-do item. Enter twice. Add this to-do item. Make a new line and add this last to-do item. Now our major steps are organized, and we can come back to each one later. Maybe you wonder how this is different than regular comments. Let me show you. Click the View menu, move down and click To-Do List in the sub-menu. Now you have a to-do list at the bottom of your IDE. Now imagine you have hundreds or thousands of lines of code, and you must add additional pieces of code between those lines. With a to-do list, you can find it easy. Double-click the third item in the to-do list. Your insertion point immediately takes you to the item. Let's set up the initial values first. Double-click the to-do item you created for that. It is the second one in the list. Now your insertion point is at the place where you must write the code. Go under the to-do item. Type LST Europe.clear. Here we clear the list box on the right. Press enter. Type this statement. Here we get the length of the array, and we assign it to the integer named int EU size. Press enter. Type this statement. Here we get the length of the second array and assign it to int non-EU size. Press enter and type int Europe size equals 0. Here we set the integer that must size the dynamic array to 0. Press enter again. This is all the statements we need to set up the initial values. Now go back to your to-do list and tick it off the list. Notice the to-do changed to done. You can leave this in your code to serve as a regular comment. Double-click the third to-do item. Here we must write code to add the EU countries to the dynamic array. Go to the blank line under the to-do item. Type for int EU index, := 1, 2, int EU size, do. Press enter and type begin. Press enter, type this statement. Here we increment the variable that sets the size of the dynamic array. Press enter, type this statement. Here we set the size of the dynamic array with the setLength procedure. Press enter, type this statement. Here we get the country name from the array that stores the EU countries and assign it to the new element in the dynamic array. Notice we use -1 because the dynamic array's index starts at 0. We are also done with this to-do item. Go tick it off your to-do list. Now this to-do also changed to done. Now let's display the output. Double-click the last to-do item in your to-do list. Go to the line under the to-do item. Type for str country name in ARR Europe, do. Enter and type begin. Enter again, type this statement. Here we use a for in loop to get the individual country name in the dynamic array. Then we add the country name to the items of a list box named LST Europe. Now run the program. Click EU countries. Click non-EU countries. Click Europe. This list box displays the same country names as the list box on the left because we haven't merged the two arrays. We must now add the countries in the middle to the dynamic array to append them under the country names in the list box on the right. Close your form. Now tick the last to-do item of your to-do list. Double-click the fourth to-do item. Here we must write code to also add the non-EU countries to the dynamic array. Go to the blank line under your to-do item. Type for int non-EU index, := 1, 2, int non-EU size, do. Press enter and type begin. Press enter, type this statement. Here we increment the variable that sets the size of the dynamic array again. Press enter, type this statement. We use the setLength procedure to set the size of the dynamic array again. Press enter, type this statement. Here we get the country name from the array that stores the non-EU countries, and we assign it to the new element of the dynamic array. We use -1 again because the dynamic array's index starts at 0. Now run the program. Click EU countries. Click non-EU countries. Now click Europe. Now the list box on the right displays the countries from both arrays. Notice the second array's elements are just appended to the first array. But if it is a requirement, you must also sort the merged array. We will do that with a selection sort. Close your form. We are also done with this to-do, so tick it off your to-do list. Now this to-do also changed to done. Double-click the first to-do item in your to-do list. It takes you to the variable declarations. Make a new line under the to-do item. Type int current index, int next index, as integer. Remember, to sort the elements of an array, we must cycle through the array with 2 loops. While cycling through the array, we must compare 2 elements, and if the first element in the comparison is greater than the second element, you must swap the 2. You can go back to lesson 17.9 to see a detailed explanation of the selection sort algorithm. int current index is the variable that will keep track of the cycles of the outer loop to find the first value to compare. And int next index keeps track of the inner loop to find the second value to compare. Enter and type strtemp as string. When you swap the 2 values, you must use a temporary variable to help you to do the swapping in 3 steps. strtemp will be used to help us with the 3-step swap. Now you can tick this to-do item off your to-do list. Double-click the remaining item in your to-do list. Go 1 line down. Type 4, int current index, colon equals 1, 2, int Europe size, minus 1, do. Enter and type begin. Enter again. This is the outer loop that finds the first value that will be compared. It starts at 1 and it cycles up to the second last index, because there must always be something after to compare. Type 4, int next index, colon equals int current index, plus 1, 2, int Europe size, minus 1, do. Press enter and type begin. Enter again. This is the inner loop that finds the second value that must be used in the comparison. It starts 1 index after the current index, and it cycles to the last index of the array. We use minus 1 here because it is a dynamic array, and dynamic arrays are 0-based. Now type this if statement. Press enter and type begin. Enter again. This if statement checks if the value in the current index found by the outer loop is greater than the value in the next index found by the inner loop. Now type this comment. Now we must do the 3-step swap I also explained in lesson 10.9. Press enter and type this statement. If the value in the current index is greater than the value in the next index, it means the first value must go after the second one. So here we take the first value in the current index and store it into the temp variable. This is the first step. Enter and type this statement. This is step 2. Here you take the second value stored in the next index and assign it to the current index. So this will overwrite the first value. Press enter and type this statement. Now you take the first value that is now stored in the temp variable and you bring it back into the array and assign it to the next index where the second value was. This is the final step. Let's see if it works. Run your program. Click EU countries. Click non-EU countries. Now click Europe. Now verify that the merged array is sorted in ascending order. If you are happy, you can close your form. And don't forget, tick the last item off your to-do list and save your project. Next time, you will learn how to insert a new element in an array. If you enjoyed this lesson, please leave a comment. And if you learned something new, please like, subscribe and share my lessons with your friends. Thank you for watching, and a special thank you to my supporters on patreon.com. And happy coding. See you next time.